Hello, friends. Hello.
It is Wednesday and it is just us. Oh no.
As you may be noticing, there are just two of us on screen. That's because Philip has gone on a holiday and has thus abandoned us to our own devices.
It
But
either goes well or badly. We're either very serious and intellectual or terrible things, bad things happen.
we are doing the history roundup today of the last four. And of course, that does require our scores, but also Philippa's scores. As you can see, Catherine has in her sweaty little hands the scores that Philippa has given to each of these individuals, which we do not know.
No.
So we will be finding out at the same time as you. I'm going to be trying. I've written down the scores so far. We're going to try and keep track of what's going on. The scoring works as follows. It's scored out of 100. So the first 90 are three categories. The three categories are as follows. We have 30 points for hero status in their personal life. So each of us will be giving a score out of 10. The next 30 is their public life, hero status, and the third is their legacy. That brings us to a score of 90. What we then do, of course, is we have how active they were in their own legacy making. And that comes down to you. In the comment section, you'll be either putting a yes or a no. If it's a yes, it's a straight score of 10 added onto the top. If it comes down with more, if the ends have it, so to speak, then it will be a 0 score. And then I say I'm going to try and do some maths, but I'm really bad at maths. So maybe, Catherine, can you add up the numbers and I'll make a note of them?
Yes.
Okay.
I should do it on the back of the envelopes.
Love it. Before we get into things, I think it's probably time for a disclaimer.
Very warm. Cat is very warm. I'm fanning her.
It is oveny, toasty hot in this part of the world. And I do sit in the kitchen where we have been cooking. So I say we, I mean Jamie. So
I know it was hot. Jamie because you're not dead.
Yeah. So it has to be Jamie that's cooking because I am alive still. Fascinating, big and fan-like to use. That'll do. Right. So welcome, friends, to History After Dark. We call it that for numerous reasons, but principally on our other social media platforms, we are veritable paragons of grace and decorum. Nary a swear word passes our porcelain faces. However, we all have filth in our hearts. So we did want a place away from our polite social media where we could let our freak flags fly, where we could use some four-letter expletives, some innuendo, general filth, and skullduggery. So if you are in an open plan office with a judgmental boss, put a headphone in. If you are in a kitchen, a car, a cellar, an Anderson shelter with a little child, in my head, this child is called Timmy.
You should be in a cellar with your small child.
Hey, you've got to do what you've got to do. We have our merch. Timmy is a problem. Timmy's the kind of child that hears one depraved thing one time, takes it to school with him, repeats it in front of his teacher. In my head, she's Miss Honey from Matilda. She does not watch History After Dark, so thus she forgets the first cardinal rule of History After Dark, which is, if you don't know what it means, it's not for you, don't Google it. She Googles it. She's now traumatized. She's in the corner in the fetal position, rocking back and forth, weeping. She's now non-verbal. You get called at school. You've got to answer why Timmy knows this depraved thing, and also you're now on the hook for 12 weeks of therapy because Miss Honey needs to be able to speak so that she can teach the lovely children. Put a headphone in. Alternatively, you can watch the playback here on the YouTubes. It is, of course, worth watching us live because there may be a time when we say something so unspeakably, so unutterably depraved that we have to yeet that footage into the sun because we are too pretty for prison. It's been a while. It happened once, which means one of three things. Either we have got better, unlikely. 2, we're due another snafu, more likely. The third is, I think, perhaps the most likely. And that is a case, the three of us, when we are all together, have spent so much time together. And as we know, Philippa is the firm hand on the tiller. So thus, it's 2 of us. We have all spent so much time together that we have now lost sight of where the depravity begins and ends. And the bar is now in hell. So
that's why it's so hot.
That deserves yeeting. I mean, we've just missed it. Thus, with that beautifully cut glass crystal chandelier of a disclaimer, you know what you're expecting. If at any point anybody should come into the comments here or our personal social medias and say something along the lines of, "Oh, I think it's very nice, all the history, but you have to swear so much, it's not very ladylike," we know what you're doing and we're not taking the bait. We're not going to pin that comment so that people can come in and humiliate you, because that's your kink. And look, Catherine might shame you, but I won't. I won't kink shame you. However,
I will a lot.
if you participate and perpetrate kink without consent, that's not okay, babe. If you want to have someone spit in your eye, kick you in the testicles, and call you Shirley for a handsome fee, I've got a number of Brighton basements that I can check you into. However, this is not that place. We do not consent, so don't do it. We hope you're all adults. Lucas, go to bed.
You won't go to bed.
You can make your own choices. This will never be a drinking game. This is never going to be legal advice. We do not approve that message. Please do not sue. Welcome, friends, to History
I have
After
a
Dark.
question. What are the names of the ladies in the basements this week?
Claudine, Liliella,
oh,
and Lucifer.
And what, sorry?
And Lucifer.
I've met her. I tell you what, she's a
dirty bitch. She really is.
It made my teeth curl. She did.
I know. Let's score these.
Number 1.
Alexa, stop. We're starting off with Sir or Saint Thomas More.
What's that with Alexa? What's she doing with her life?
She's having a situation. She's about to get my foot up her backside in a second.
Oh. Okay.
Right. Thomas More. Let us start.
Right.
Let's get some of these scores up on these doors, right? So we are starting with the hero status in his personal life.
Okay.
Thoughts, my lady?
I think that would score quite high because he did bounce very quickly into his second marriage after the sad early demise of his first wife.
Yep.
But for the best
part,
he appeared to be a good husband. He appeared to be a good father.
Mm-hmm.
He welcomed wards into their home. He very much accepted the partners of his children and his wards. He made good marriages for people in his family. He believed a lot more than many do for a good education for the household. There's evidence that he was a pretty good chum as well. People seem to mostly get along with him. Mm-hmm. He did burn some people alive, but I don't think any of them were friends of his. So in terms of being a family member, a work colleague or a chum, I think he scores quite well.
I mean, I think that I would certainly agree with that. And I think particularly his interest and dedication in educating his daughters does serve as an example to those around him. In terms of like his personal life, his family life, I'm probably going to give him like a 9.
Yeah, I'm giving him a 9. Just as a heads up, I apparently can't even write etc.
Good. We're on a roll.
Well already. Right. So yes, I'm going to say 9 as well, Kat.
Are we going to open Philippa's envelope and or do we put our scores down and then have hers to add on?
Yeah, I don't know how she's done it. I don't know if she's. I'll have a quick look to see if she's listed them. So this is quite exciting. It's like I feel like we should have had a drum roll. I'm just trying to see how she's done it without spoiling it for myself. Oh no, she's done it. Look, so I can reveal it in stages. Can you see?
Look at that. Look at that.
How very Philippa character. Oh, controversial character. Oh, hello. Right. A 6. She's only given him a 6. Right. A good family man sticks to his beliefs, but I feel, and I realise this is a good quality in many respects, He stuck to it to a state of stubbornness which ruined the lives of his family and left them grief-stricken.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing is, if he was really that much of a loving family man, would he have sacrificed himself and thus endangered? They were better off with him alive and compliant. He endangered their lives. I still stand by my score, but I can see where Philip is coming from.
Yeah, no, I can. And I suppose we don't know their perspectives. We know that some of his family, like his daughter Margaret, begged him to do whatever he needed to do. But
yeah, but she was sent there by Henry.
Yeah. But he obviously thought that he was doing it for them. It was like the greater good, wasn't it? So, but I do see where she was coming from.
Yeah.
It made life pretty, if you're the head of your family is a traitor, it's not good times, is it?
It's bad times. Bad times. But the thing is, he didn't castigate them for their choice in the matter.
No,
when Margaret was like, "I've sworn the oath." She was
again. I'm sticking with my 9.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting point. So she said put that she originally was an 8, but then that took her down to a 6.
Fair.
So we have
okay.
24 for relationships.
24 for relationships. Okay, right.
Stroke, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, professional life.
Oh, now then. Kat, you go first.
In terms of like heroics, the work he creates is still being read today.
Mm-hmm.
It's still famous today. He does really, I mean, we cannot comment considering the kind of content that we produce. He, in his like attacks on Luther with his beshitted mouth, etc.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that. The language.
He likes a bit of language. He likes a bit of colourful language. And from my perspective, that only ranks him higher. Obviously. Obs. I can see how it would drop people down. Part of his profession was, burning what he saw as heretics. I don't love that.
No, not great.
I don't love capital punishment. However, what I will say is that when you've got people like Richard Rich, who are actively engaging in physical acts of violence and torture.
I don't know much about Richard Rich. He was one of our deceased gits last year, and he scored highly. We can't lie. The only thing that saved him a little bit was he appears to be a good family man. Apart from that, he's an absolute swine.
Yeah. To my knowledge, he certainly seems to have been. I think he ties you in not psychologically when he's questioning you. I don't think he's necessarily turning the rack himself like Richard Rich is supposed to have done. For somebody who has the academic agility that he does, the capacity to engage with rhetoric and thought, it is a little bit odd to me that he can be so rigid in matters of faith, so immovable in matters of faith. I find that odd. But maybe that's because I am not a person of as devout faith as he was. My faith is more flexible. I don't know.
Is that one of those things where, he has that capability for rhetoric, discussion, reasoning, persuasion, whichever terminologies that people may choose to use, but he feels that those are only necessary for certain things? That's cut and dried. So we have that's a given. Those things don't apply. In his, like you say, in his mind, it's so firm that that's correct, that he's unyielding. But then most people in that period were unyielding about their faith and the role of God in your life. Maybe if he lived now, even if he was extremely, extremely devout now, somebody who like is a cardinal or the Archbishop of Canterbury or somebody like that, even though their faith is devout and unshakable and the center of their life 1,000,000%, and everything in their life revolves around that, times change. So they may be very well-educated individuals with, as I say, life experience. It's a different sort of life experience, isn't it? But that they have to be in a world now where they have to be more open-minded. They have to see wider pictures. So I don't know. That just kind of bungs him in the 16th century where he is, maybe compared to the 21st century. I don't know, but
But
yeah,
then the thing is, I don't. That's the thing is, there are clearly people in the 16th century who are very agile thinkers, who are very clever academics, who are very good at rhetoric, who are also questioning orthodoxy. And I suppose for me, anybody who engages in the discarding of a human being in the most final and absolute way because they think differently to you, that is not evidence of an agile mind to me. That is evidence of intellectual myopia.
that's a good term.
It makes me question in a wider context how I should score him. I'll be honest.
Fair.
I'm gonna go 7 mostly for the burnings. To be honest, mostly for the burnings.
You see, I'm tempted to go a bit higher just for commitment to the cause. I feel like if you're going to get brownie points for like being committed to your cause, and he gets 58 out of 10, doesn't he, for that?
I mean,
So you're going 7. I think, I don't know. You see, I think I want to go maybe like definitely an 8, maybe even a 9, just in terms of this is such a shallow way of putting it, but how good he was at his job.
yeah, I mean, in terms of like things like Utopia are
It's
work
just,
people still turn to.
yeah.
Amanda asked, "Are we talking about Thomas or Henry VIII?" And yeah, I can see why they're friends too. I can also see why they're friends. There is both of them have clear and evident intellectual curiosity. Both of them have leanings in various ways that are polymathic. These are two bright, engaged men. But I also think both of them have the capacity for shire horsing and putting blinkers on, and deliberately ignoring the possibilities of external thoughts.
Right. So you've gone 7. I've gone 9. Philippa has got 7. She's put, I think he elevates his own position, but is a significant person in history as he was in his own time. I also love that he stood up to Henry VIII.
Fair point.
Okay, 14, 23 for professional life. Okay, and what was the last thing?
Legacy.
Legacy. Well, I mean, it's look at that. It's huge. That's what she said.
I mean, look,
It's big, isn't it?
The mark he left on the earth, the rippling out from his death, the outrage following his death, the fact that centuries later he is beatified, canonized, made a saint, as one of the Protestant martyrs. The fact that he's also positioned as a saint within the Anglican Church as well. I think is really interesting. In terms of legacy, I don't think you can get much better.
No, I'm going to bring in as well literature in terms of obviously his own literature, literature and drama as well because of the Bard.
Exactly.
You can't hear much about Shakespeare without Thomas More without hearing about Shakespeare, and that's a massive thing culturally. In this country, but also internationally, really. And of course, if you're a Ricardian, you're probably having an aneurysm right now, so that's affecting your life.
I mean, the thing is, it's not just his text from Richard III that Shakespeare talks about. In the multi-authored play, The Play of Thomas More, it's believed that this is one of the few examples that we have of William Shakespeare's own hand in the manuscript. So he writes a play about he co-authors a play about Thomas More. So clearly he is alive in the mind of Shakespeare and all of the people. And there's about 6 or 7 people that have been named as potentials for co-authoring this play, and they do read like a kind of who's who of early modern drama. So it's not just Shakespeare that's inspired by Thomas More. It's a whole bunch of other people who arguably then go on to inspire so much of our modern media, TV series, cinema, etc. The plays that are the films and TVs that take reference from things like Richard III. Where would that be without Thomas More? Is the question.
I'm going 9. I'm not
I'm
going
gonna go 9
10.
too.
Yeah, I'm not going 10 because we're not quite sort of like Bill Gates territory. Do you know what I mean? But
we're not Edward Jenner territory. We're not let's cure smallpox territory.
Right. Let's have a look what Philippa has said.
Philippa?
Oh, there's a shock.
What?
Oh. Positivity of legacy 6. What did he achieve except notoriety?
Ooh,
shock.
Interesting.
All right, hang on. I can't add. Oh, yes, I can. All right. Now, Kat, are you jingling?
For the
yes, because you've got to do your bit now. I'm going to let Kat explain it because I don't know what I'm doing with the explaining.
So it's are they culpable for their legacy? Culpable is a weird word. Do we mean culpable?
Yeah, how much did they know that what was going to happen now was going to happen?
Yeah, we didn't use the word culpable, did we? What did we use?
Oh no, culpable was gits, wasn't it?
Yes.
How much of their I don't know. What are you asking me for? Just as I've been here all the time doesn't mean I know. Jesus.
Agency. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, CBB. That's it.
Thank
Agency. I could my brain farted. So I was like, what is another word for culpability that's less pejorative? I could think of the word pejorative, but I couldn't think of the word agency.
Oh, I love Amanda's put the tea from Philippa is fire today.
Yeah. Philippa's got spicy when she was doing this.
Yeah, she can be. It's that thing, keyboard warrior. Look, she's not here. She's leaving me to take the flak while she's
Swat it off. Right. Let's do this. Let's do this jingly wingly.
Yeses and nos. So bear with me, people, because normally Philippa counts the yeses and I count the nos. So bear with me. I'll be as quick as I can.
Can you do the yeses? Because I feel they're going to be higher.
I'll do both. I'll do both.
Both.
You might just have to bear with me if it takes me a bit longer if they come through quick.
We're gonna put in my mind, I'm just watching it. We're gonna do 30 seconds on the clock, and it's going to be put a wire in the little box. Did they have agency, or do you think they didn't? Was Thomas More in charge of what we think of him? Let us know your thoughts in the box down below. Put a Y or an N. Y means yes, N means no. If you think he's got a lot of agency, then put a Y in the box, please. Put a Y in the box, please. And that is 4, 3, 2, 1. The end.
The end.
The end.
They're probably still coming in a little bit, but I've only had one no, so I'm going to say yes.
Right.
There's obviously a little bit of a delay on this, but yeah, there was more yeses than there was only one no, so it is
okay.
What it is,
so what's the maths there then?
Okay, so 10, so 60, 71, 81.
You're asking that like it's a question. Is it 81?
Okay, 60, 68, 70. Yeah, 81.
Okay.
If anyone thinks I'm wrong, please message it to me later privately. Because, mathematical humiliation. It was not on my bingo card for today.
Sorry. Okay. So that was Thomas More. He's coming in at 81. I have put his scores on. I have put his scores on the doors. Should we wait to the end? Should we wait to the end so I can tell you the scores on the doors?
Yeah.
Just as a reminder of where we were before. The list that we have, with excluding the 4 from today, it goes this way: Edward Jenner, 94. Alfred the Great, 93. Ada Lovelace, 89. William the Marshal, 88. Isaac Newton and Isambard Kingdom Brunel level pegging it at 87. Capability Brown, 84. Charlie Darwin, 81. Arme Florence, the Nightingale, 78. I thought it said Beyonce. It doesn't. It says Boudica. Those are different words.
Same, different.
The Beyonce of Anglo-Saxon Britain, Boudica, is it at 74. Your favourite queen and mine, Anne of Cleves, at 54. And last but by no means least, the lady, the legend, Princess Charlotte, 52.
I'm a bit put out because my thing don't work. It's not good. What is this nonsense?
I don't know. Maybe it stopped. Maybe it stopped working. It right. Who are we doing next then? Who's up next?
N is for Nelson.
Nelson. Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson. Let us begin at the very beginning.
We should. That's a very good place to.
It's a very good place to start. With private life. The private life of Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson. He does not boots in a mistressy fashion.
What?
He is an unfaithful husband.
Oh, it's not great, is it?
No, he is a shagger. I also can't imagine that he was like massive when he was about, for either of them, few and far between. He's on a bloody boat all the time.
He was a tad indiscreet, let's be honest.
Yes, indiscreet, lives on a boat, smells scurvy.
Yeah, fishy.
Smells fishy.
Stupid enough to get a job on a boat when he gets motion sickness.
Yeah. But good friend, I think. And although this is kind of professional, the way in which the members of his crew clearly feel about him, if that goes beyond somebody being just a good captain who runs a tight ship, he also must have been a nice person.
I know we don't actually know, but compared to some historical figures, there does seem to be a level of sort of, as much as there ever is in these hierarchies, respect for the people underneath. And I will do what I expect you to do. I'm going to be in this. I'm going to stand up and go through what you're going through. I don't expect you to.
The problem is that does border on the professional side, but I think it shows a kind of character that I imagine bleeds over into your private life, unless you're his wife. Unless you're his wife. Steve, Nelson is, as much as we know, a man's man. He said, I think if you were one of his boys, one of his lads, I think it was probably quite a different experience to being his wife, maybe even his mistress.
Well, let's hope so. I'm not sure what to do here. I'm torn between 6 and 7. Well, now we did do that thing when he found out he could go back to sea, because more wars with France, because what else do you do? Yeah. He had a piss up. He held a piss up for everybody in the local boozer, didn't he? That was quite a nice thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to get that's taken me to a 7.
Yeah, the adultery does knock it down, but I think I'm going to go 7 as well.
Right. The grand unveiling. Oh, right. She's gone 6. Amazing leader, hugely respected. Personal life, though. Not good to his wife. I'm also not clear if he provided properly for his mistress and daughter in the event of his death.
That's a fair point as well.
That is a fair point.
It's always kind of like word of honor rather than actually doing anything about it.
Right. Okay, what was the next thing? Professional life.
Yeah, I mean, he's bloody good at what he does.
I mean, he's pretty decent.
He's bloody good at what he does.
If you're going to do that, be like that.
He rises through the ranks quickly. He not only is he really good at his job and well respected by the higher ups, he also wins the admiration, respect, and loyalty of his crew. The grief at his death is extraordinary. I'm going to go 10.
I'm going to go 10. As you were, I was 9-ish, but then as you were speaking, I was like, yeah, let's look at boaty people. Struggling to think of anybody more boaty.
It's the people who are synonymous with being boaty, particularly in sort of British history, also frequently tend to be piratey.
True. Yes. Good boaty.
Yeah.
Good boaty. And by the way, as I'm doing these, I'm doing that thing where you fold the bit of paper down so I don't see either until she's gone 10.
There we go.
And accomplishments and importance in his own lifetime and in the national conscience.
There we go. Legacy. See, this for me becomes more complicated because of the psychic power that he generates in his lifetime and soon after his death and the public grieving. He gets put to use. We have that period where we lose him because morals change and he is a cheater, naughty wife cheater. So they stop sort of showing him off. But then when morals change again, he becomes this figurehead buzzword of imperialism and aggressive imperialism. His statues get set up as signifiers as markers of imperial control and oversight. That is something that I find particularly uncomfortable, and evidently the nations in which it was done also found, and in some cases continue to find it uncomfortable. We haven't done culpability yet. I think his legacy becomes repurposed in such a way that the heroism is diminished because of what it gets attached to, for me. What do you reckon?
If I just say yes, it's going to look really unimaginative, but yes. It's like so many things. His achievements, heroicism, whatever, like you say, has born in and out of popularity depending on what's going on in the wider narrative. I think the other thing is in terms of infidelity, no one's ever gone, yeah, that was great, well done.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're Hugh Hefner, but or some other equal. But is he dead? He's not been dead that long. I can't say bad things about him. Not that I would. I've lost my train of thought. I had an angry squirrel. An angry squirrel wrote past it. Oh yeah. So, but now a bit like what we were saying about with Moore earlier, how things change. You know, was it harder for people to differentiate their religious morality back then maybe than it is now? And the same way then we can say that was personally the adultery part of it was awful. It was horrendous. It was so bad. His poor wife. But we can go, okay, but we can take that as a separate thing, and we can look at, you know, colonization as it's terrible, but we can pick apart each thing to put it back in. It's like Gestalt theory. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and it's not so messy. So, well, I don't know. Anyway, it's still the answer. I feel like
I mean, I don't think in terms of the way his legacy works out, I don't think he has agency over the negative parts of his legacy.
No.
But I think his legacy becomes attached to some very negative things. And in part, that is possible because of the success he has in his lifetime. It's a very complex one, but the legacy of Nelson is and the way in which his image has been used and his statues have been used is not a legacy that fills me with glee.
Now, here's the thing. So we've talked about how he was the most boaty of boaty people, right? Boaty people and aeroplane flyy people, I don't think are often given as much credence as on the land people, if you're talking about the different types of forces. So, I mean, I don't know enough about all of this stuff, especially in the air people, but like Army, Navy, what's the thing in the air?
Air Force.
Oh, no. This is it, people. Welcome to my brain. You know, I think land army get the most credence. So is it possible to score his legacy as easily as it would be if he was the equivalent of the person in a land army? Because people don't know much about
I would challenge that, because I would say that the reason why we have the particular things we do about our land army is because of trench warfare in World War One. That everybody in the military thought that World War One was going to be another naval battle. For much of this country's history, the Navy was the force that we were the most proud of.
See, I don't know this. I'm learning, you see.
Stephen Mann, Steve's talking about Nelson's views on slavery has not been a good thing. Absolutely, and that is the thing. I don't buy into, Catherine doesn't buy into being a man of his times. There are plenty of people who are abolitionists in this country. The work he does, the things he supports, they do function in the propping up of enslavement.
But it wasn't him doing it. We mentioned this at the time, wasn't it? He didn't take part. I think he was quite sort of silent on it. He freed up the sea, but a lot of that was about trade. He wasn't opposing. He wasn't an abolitionist, was he? But he certainly wasn't stepping in to support it either. I don't.
But by doing, but thing is, by doing he may not have been an active participant, but the work he did empowered it.
But do you think he meant to do that? Do you think he was, slavery is a great idea. If I do this, that will make that easier? We don't know. I'm just playing devil's advocate. But yeah, I suppose, and having said that, going back to what I was saying just now, maybe thinking back on myself, actually, many people have heard of Nelson's column, the Victory, etc., that maybe wouldn't have heard names like Field Marshal Haig and things like that. So I don't know. Basically, a thought came into my brain. It made sense in my brain. I said it out loud. Then I wasn't sure about it, and now I don't know. So I'm going to pick a number, and I'm going to go with 7.
It's a 6 for me.
The reason I think 7 is I did think 6, but just because it's him that brings the Navy for most people into being a thing, I think, really, if that makes sense. If we hadn't had this big, you know, if you take, there are loads of other things, but he's the big person, isn't he, that people have heard of, the stuff that he did, and he's got a column. So not many people have been crapped on by as many pigeons as Lord Nelson.
Well,
have you know,
or climbed by as many Blue Beetle presenters either.
Yes.
I've been climbed by no Blue Beetle presenters, not even one.
No, me neither. I feel sad now. I don't. No one's tried to put a traffic cone on top of my head.
No. Right.
See?
What's Philip said?
8. I think his legacy may be affected by current world views. Lots of bits crossed out that I shall try and decipher later. But I'd still say he shouldn't. We shouldn't patronise the people of the past by thinking we are better at assessing popular figures' characters. Hindsight is not 2020. Okay, so far we are up to 71.
Okay, so the question is, over these things, particularly like his legacy and stuff, how much agency does Nelson have himself? Let us see what you think. Same rules apply. Did he have agency? Put a Y or N in the comments, please. Y means yes, N means no. That's fairly basic how letters work. I think you understand. Tell us about what you think of his agency today. Do you think he is in charge of his destiny? Do you think that we think about him the way that he would want us to think about him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you.
I mean, I probably got them all, probably, but they were all yeses. So
Right.
So that brings us up to 81, the same as Sir Thomas More.
Okay. Right.
High scorers, guys. High scorers.
Okay. Hang on, just writing that down. Take that. Writing in crayon is really difficult.
Now we know how toddlers feel. Still yeses coming in. Good times. Right, we've done 2. We've got 2 more. We normally have some interludes to break it up. We don't have any of those.
We don't do interludes in the roundups.
No, but just to give it a tiny bit of a hurt, just Kat, very quickly, tell us about how you got on at Harvington on Sunday.
Oh well, I had a lovely time. It was very warm.
It was.
I drove up that morning and back. It's around about just over 300-mile drive. Being 8 months pregnant, thank goodness my new car had arrived prior to it, because driving an automatic that distance while 8 months pregnant, different kettle of fish to driving a manual with no air conditioning in summer. So I'm fairly grateful that happened. And I was looked after very well by the team at Harvington, and of course by Catherine and by Philippa. Catherine brought me some lovely bickets. I think the talk went. I think I didn't make a complete tit of myself. And
you tell her she didn't, and she wouldn't.
They gave me 2 fans. I had 2 fans projecting air at me. I got a chair. I got ice water, and I got some lovely questions.
A red chair,
a throne, and then I also got ice water. But I mean, yeah, Catherine, you saw it. It was all right, wasn't it?
It was. It went very, very well. We got some brilliant audience questions as well, didn't you? Which shows that people are obviously very engaged. I think one of the things we said was there was a real variety of talks and subjects. So, but I think what people liked was there were sort of familiar things, but it's nice to have things also that are a little bit different as well, and a little bit more niche, because that really appeals to some people. So I thought it went rather well, and everyone liked you. And so people even came and spoke to you at the end, didn't they? They didn't get their questions in, so they came and found you. And yeah, we seem to get. It went very well. It went very well. It's a shame you weren't able to stay for the talk afterwards, but as you said, you had that. And we didn't put her in a priest hide, but only because she's pregnant.
I don't think I would have fit in a priest hide.
Don't want to go in a priest hide, mate.
I have been talking to Phil. I'm trying to convince him that when I get this baby out of me and I recover from the process, I'm going to drive back up to Harvington and we're going to do a video, hopefully.
Oh, can I come?
Yeah.
If you're going to climb in a priest hide, I want to see.
You can help me film bits if you like.
Okay. I'll be like that. What's the name of the person that runs about and does stuff for the person filming things?
A runner.
That. As long as you don't have to run into the priest hides, because they scare me.
No. Right. Let's do our third. Who we got?
Speaking of Harvington and priest hides,
see what
I did there? I actually thought that ahead. Do you like that?
I love it.
Mr. Nicholas Owen. I'm really proud of myself. I've been sat here quite proud of myself for about 5 minutes now.
I think that's brilliant. I love it. I love it. So,
let's priest.
Private life for Mr. Did we do private life? We did do private life.
There wasn't really much to know.
No.
It was fuck all. Oh, there wasn't much to know. In terms of personal life, I mean, I would say there's nothing to suggest that he wasn't a good son, or there's nothing to suggest he was a bad family member. Certainly he went down to Southwark and went to the Clink prison to visit his brother, which is a little bit, well, it's not great, is it, so to go, I don't know if any of the rest of his family made that journey. I mean, thank God he did, because that's where he met Father Henry Garnet, and obviously a lot of it sort of spiraled from there. So fate. But you know, he was certainly, I mean, you couldn't get any more loyal as a person to somebody to keep you safe, to keep your secrets, to keep your words, to try and protect you. And you know that when he got taken, he, no matter what happened, he did not utter a word.
Yeah. And while that
So
thing is,
in terms of loyalty,
that does bleed into professional. I think when you're being brutally tortured and you still keep quiet, that at that point that tips past the professional into the implicitly personal. However, we don't know a whole heck of a lot about the rest of his life. That is going to bring the score down. I mean, incredible loyalty to his mates, but I don't know. We don't know that much about the rest.
Exactly. So there's nothing to suggest that he was a bad person in terms of his personal relationships, but there is a gap. We don't really know. So
7 for me.
Oh, that's low.
Only because we don't know enough. That's my reason for giving that score.
I'm going to go 9. And I know now, when you said 7, I thought, well, maybe I should go 8. But I also feel actually like he didn't really have time to be a bellend. He didn't get the opportunity to be much of a bellend. He had to work on his own a lot. And actually, because there always would have been people out to blacken his name, I think there would have been very easy for people to make bad stuff up, even if there wasn't actual bad stuff. We don't even have made up bad stuff.
Oh, that one priest, didn't he blame him though for them being found?
Oh, I don't remember.
He got a bit spicy, but that's probably he was just.
Well, that was him. He should have hid harder.
What is
so did you say 7? Yes, 7. No.
That is what I'm saying now, anyway.
Philippa, so she's put character. So she's put it as character. We're saying personal. Which one of these is it?
Well, I thought it was personal life, but
personal life, character. It's all kind of the same thing. She's put 10. The man did not break.
Fair. I mean, that's for me. That lives. That I think the thing is that his behaviour under torture, for me, is as much about the professional life as the personal life. Okay, fair enough. Fair.
Right. What's the next thing?
Professional life.
Well, 10.
10.
I've got nothing else for you because nothing else needs to be said, really, does it? I mean,
his craftsmanship, his ingenuity, his capacity to keep people safe and hidden. The fact that in some of these houses they only were able to find some of the priest hides he had by literally using modern technology to scan the building from rafter to basement. Every inch of it with modern day lasers and shit like that. That is what it took to find some of these hides centuries later.
And there might still be some we don't even know are there.
There might be some that have not been found. It's possible. He is so good at his job.
A genius.
So good at his job. It's unbelievable.
It's unnecessary.
He's unnecessarily good. Yes, 10 from me.
Well, Philippa's given it a 10 as well. She's put unrivaled genius who did it all for a greater good, in brackets, in his mind. So we might, so So full scores on that one. Legacy. Tricky. Because obviously he knew what he was doing and why he was doing it. And he was part of a wide movement and knew it was very dangerous. But they'd seen for many decades now that things were not going in the right, apart from those 5 years under Mary I, things were not going the right way for Catholicism. And I wonder if he really thought that it could be turned around, or if he was all that they were just doing all that they could do in some vain hope, or they thought it was going to be like, I don't know how much he thought that they could turn the tide. Do you know what I mean? Like temporarily, permanently, in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, in terms of legacy, we are not a Roman Catholic country. Mary-Anne points out that she's never heard of him before this History After Dark episode, which is on one hand a testament to the fact that he is able to keep a secret, well, that he keeps himself secret. But how good can your legacy be when people haven't heard of you? But is that because we don't become a Roman Catholic country once again? Some of his work does arguably preserve and protect people who do become involved in the gunpowder plot. So the reason we get to have fireworks night, because in this country we like to celebrate the thought of somebody blowing up the House of Parliament with the King inside. I'm sorry, no, sorry. We celebrate that not happening. That's what we celebrate. Yeah, that's not the first one, the other one. That's definitely what we're celebrating. For sure. So that complicates things because his work doesn't have, I think, what the desired effect was. He's not particularly well known. And the people that he protects do end up being fairly serious traitors. Problems.
I mean, at the end of the day, we didn't go back to Catholicism, what they were trying to achieve as a movement, if movement's not the best word, but as a movement, as an ideology, never occurred. So in terms of the Jesuits and what they were trying to achieve, he was kind of successful in that. But in terms of a longer term, they obviously had the goal. The goal was to allow people to practice their faith, to maintain their faith, to try and give people the opportunity to find Catholicism, presumably. But it was so dangerous and difficult at that point. It was a constant, it was like pushing a massive rock up a really big slope, and I don't know if he really, you could see somebody like Nelson going, I can go onto this ship and I can make a massive difference now, which is going to have a knock-on effect for how safe the seas are in the future. You can't say that about Nicholas Owen.
Wheaty says this, I think, points out that there are Roman Catholic churches in England now. There certainly are. But to get there took decades, indeed centuries, of political and diplomatic wrangling, conversations about religious toleration and religious divides, Puritans versus Roundheads versus Cavaliers, that the question about what the monarchy was in the Stuart period, that ultimately then we kill a king and we have the Glorious Revolution. It's still legally prohibited for a Roman Catholic to sit on the throne of this country. There is, and I do wonder. Okay, this is going to be contentious, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say that Elizabeth, when she came to the throne, had in her mind a desire for toleration, to try and find a middle way in matters of faith, where outward conformity was all that was required. I think if things had been different, and I'm going to list things that I think complicate the matter, I think that by the end of Elizabeth's reign, going into the next reign, if things had been different, it's entirely possible that we would have seen the levels of toleration we now see far earlier. I think that what makes that less possible is the excommunication of 1570.
Yeah.
The arrival of the Jesuits, the very people that Nicholas Owen is helping to hide. It grows suspicion. The behaviour of Mary Queen of Scots and the Armada. All of these things, plus, of course, then you've got this problems on the continent where you've got, the massacre at Paris. So I think that in some ways, in working to protect and preserve Jesuit priests and thus try to create a flourishing Jesuit presence in England, I actually think that it's possible that the place of people with Roman Catholic faith became more dangerous and less accepted than it perhaps otherwise would have been.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I blame the Pope, ironically, in a large part.
Well, the Reglands and Excelsis, the excommunication is spectacular. It's spectacularly catastrophic in terms of engendering distrust, I believe.
Yeah.
Hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go 6 for legacy. Because the fact that we still have these survivors in places like Harvington is incredible.
I mean, it adds a lot
so
to
valuable.
the story and to the history and what we know and what we can deduce. It's
Yeah.
a big part of how things played out within
Yes.
the later 16th century going forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah. It's hard to go higher because we're comparing him to people who have been major players on the world stage. And that creates a little bit of a curveball, doesn't it, in judging success in your field, if you like. Philippa's gone 7. She's gone 7. She's put only because much of it is hidden stroke lost.
Okay.
18, 19, 75.
Before we do the question of
agency,
did he have agency over his legacy? Put a Y or N in the comments down below. Y, it stands for yes. N, it stands for no. That's how letters work, you know. So put it in the comments. Let us know what you think. You've got seconds on the door. Put a Y or an N. Has he got the agency to tell us what you think? Let us see your scores on the doors, please. Put them in the comment, and we're going to stop.
Okay, there's not been many, but they've all been no's.
Oh, interessante.
Even if we get some yeses in, it's not gonna.
I'm seeing all no's coming up. All no's.
All no.
Couple of yeses. Couple of yeses.
But overall, definitely
No's
more.
have it, I think.
They do. Right, let me just check I've added this up right. 56. So 75, because no. I mean, 75 is not low.
No.
It's probably going to be mid-range-ish. I think the thing is that we love him. We think it's great. We think it's great.
75, she say, babe.
Yeah. It's a bit like Princess Charlotte of Anne of Cleves. It's just, it isn't, I'm not doing this very well, but then you have to sort of look at them in isolation, but compare them to other people and look at how their situations are. Some things influence the world stage a lot more than others. Some do it fleetingly, some do it long term or medium term. So it's sort of fitting all those bits in together. And I think all the people, the idea of deceased gits obviously was like, look at these people and see how bell-endy they were. And it varied, but sometimes we were a little bit surprised and they weren't as like Robert the Bruce. Well, actually not as bad as we thought. There were a few like that. And then we thought, I think with this, we might find things about people that we thought they were heroes. And then maybe it was a bit marginal. And so far, there hasn't been too much of that. But I think it's just people like Nicholas Owen are just as fantastic in many ways as people like Nelson and Moore and a lot of the people that we've discussed. It's just that they're fantastic in their own way. So, you know, they're just sort of spectacular, but in the grand scheme of things and how far forward they were able to look and the influence they were able to have. They had massive influence. Like Nicholas Owen had the biggest influence in his own sphere, but in terms of sort of over time and sort of as a world influence, it can't possibly have been as much. It's a difficult one because it sort of takes some of these people and almost sort of makes them their work and their efforts and their achievements not seem as significant. I'm like, we're not saying that. I'm not.
We've chosen a scoring method that breaks it down into 3 equal parts plus an audience participation section. Those are going to be reductive. When you try and make a top trumps out of people, there is always going to be a level to which it's an odd choice to make. But we decided to score people. And we decided to do it in this way. And when you make that choice, this is where you get to. And ultimately, what I think we found with the Gits and what I think we found with this, we're finding with this, is that the scores we are ending up with, they do kind of feel right.
Yeah.
Ultimately. So without further ado, let's go on to number 4.
Hello.
What's going on even? Robert Peel.
The filth, the clergy, the rozzers.
Yeah. The old
Whatever.
Bill.
The old Bill.
The Bobbies. The
The
Peelers. Right.
Insert other words.
Let's start with personal life or character.
Oh. I mean, he meant well.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of personal life and character, it clearly he was somebody whose family were proud of him, really proud of him. The fact that so many of his sons went into politics, they wanted to follow in Daddy's footsteps. Seems to have been a good husband.
Yeah, I think he was very well. I mean, this is going into sort of personal, professional again. When you say he seemed to be well respected, so that is, you know, within his job, but also there has to be a level of being personable for your colleagues to all get along with you and want to work with you. The times when he wasn't so popular with people weren't him; it was the fact that it was policy disagreements, and you're always going to get that in politics.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I mean, there were other people who thought he was a traitor, of course, but, you know, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, but that goes back to politics again, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's professional.
When he was going for the Catholic emancipation, because obviously, you know, he changed his mind on it, but that's because I don't think he actually even agreed 100% with the change he made, but he was looking at it as the lesser of two evils. And I think we all have to do that sometimes. We have to go, look, I don't think that. I'm not saying I agree, or I'm not going to get into a discussion about whether or not I agree with Catholic emancipation or not, because it's a very sticky area and I don't know enough about the Irish question to comment on that very fully. But obviously there were things going on that were very unfair and very unpleasant at the time, and people were suffering. And so, but I think whatever we think of his decision, his stance on that, the fact that he was, despite his own personal, very strong feelings about something that he'd argued about politically for a very long time, he was able to put that to one side to make a decision for the greater good.
Yeah, and based upon a sense that there was, if it didn't happen, there was going to be even more unrest.
Yeah,
this was him. This was
him
a way of bringing peace,
really. And you know, it's rare for the politician to do that.
It's rare for a politician to spend so much political capital, because betraying your party, betraying your supporters, is an expensive diplomatic and political move.
Yeah.
To do that solely, seemingly, for a stated or believed gain being a greater level of peace and security, nothing personal, no real personal gains, I think is fairly spectacular in terms of character. 8.
Yes. Don't know.
Okay, what's Philippa got?
7.
Okay.
I'm maybe a little bit suspicious of the reasons why people go into politics sometimes.
Well, I mean, particularly when you're buying a seat like he did.
Yeah,
that's professional anyway. Again. That's professional.
Yeah, I just no. She's put 8. So he was looking to improve the safety of society. He seemed scared of civil unrest, and he chose. He seemed scared of civil unrest and the chaos it would create.
Okay.
8, 8, 16, 24, 23. Advanced edition.
I love it. Right.
Professional.
Ooh. Meteoric political rise. Prime Minister.
Twice.
Twice Prime Minister. Does things that, for example, with like the Corn Laws, Catholic emancipation, does things that better the life of marginalized and disadvantaged
Women
people.
and children in the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even in his vision for a police force as something that is demilitarized, there are laudable aims. Although I am suspicious of his test ground being Ireland, although I am suspicious of the fight to pick so many things that make them look like not an army, so no guns, no red, etc. But also, I don't know what he could have fought for. Not giving them the powers, not giving them the powers to really intervene or prevent crime with anybody other than those who would be perpetrating crimes on the street. So we have had effectively stop and search laws since the Metropolitan Police Act existed. But those stop and search laws are specifically aimed against individuals on the street. I actually looked into I was trying to figure out when the right of kind of entry, like warrant cards into properties occurred. And it's really hard to figure out when that comes into force. It seems to be, it's written into law in like, I believe, I want to say the 80s, but don't quote me on that. But certainly it makes its way into law officially, from what I can tell, in the 20th century. Prior to that, it appears that it's something that grows and becomes the case as and by means of precedent rather than legal writ. Of course, it's the person who has the right to grant permission for a building to be searched is the owner of that property. Before you have a warrant to do so, and before that's a thing, it's the owner of the property. So what that means is, if the very wealthy homeowners, property owners, are doing crime, they can say, no, you can't come in. But if they want to permit the police to go and harass their tenants, they have the right to do that.
Yeah.
When you think about who are they policing for, and whom are they policing? You are policing for the people that pay your wages or that determine that you should exist. And that is the people who can vote. Who can vote? Male landowners. Male landowners.
So how much can we say then, do you think, and I know this is impossible to say, I suppose, but he did it for what we would term the right reasons?
I think as far as he was able to, I think he did have the right motivations. I do believe that. I do believe that. And I think so much of what is achieved in moving the Overton window, actually, slightly further to the left, perhaps that then does get derailed with the instruction of the police. But the Overton window potentially shifts a bit further left because of his behaviour. It's a tricksy one for me. But I think for professionally...
See now, though, are we professionally looking at his position and melting it when we're not sure? Is that melting into legacy?
So that's why I think I'm going to
go 6 or 7.
I might go 8 for professional, actually.
Because he did do the other good shit, not just the police stuff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 8.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And from Mrs. Philippa, also 8. Popular in his lifetime and able to bring in new concepts.
Yeah. In fact, really, the reason why I'm lowering it professionally is that part of being a politician is keeping your party on side, and he fucks that royally by arguably doing the right thing. So there is that kind of question. Manda, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and maybe that's something we can say about Peel. Maybe that is something we can say about Peel.
Now we come on to legacy.
Leggies.
I'm scared. You know how we said this is a tough one because we always said certain things we don't want to talk about on HAD. One of them is that we don't want to get too political. How can you not talk about modern day policing? It'd be a tiny bit.
What? How can you not talk about a political legacy when you're talking about a politician?
Should we just give out a random number without having to explain ourselves?
Look, right. As Steve points out, corn laws really important. They are a motivator of social mobility.
Yes.
After emancipation, the legacy of that, very important. Policing, starting in Ireland, coming over here, what then gets those theories that get exported. I don't necessarily know if the issues that exist in modern day policing are solely can solely be laid at the ground of Robert Peel. However, what I will say is he started a police force, or he legislated around a police force just before we became obsessed with creating monuments to people and ideas. That the edifices of power and national identity became sacrosanct. And I don't think it's his fault, but we talked about it last time in the last one, and I've come to the conclusion that is where I stand. I think that part of the issues that we are seeing in contemporary policing is that we are trying to make a model that was designed for society 100 years ago work.
Yeah.
And previously, policing was more agile. Policing was more. It changed. It was responsive. It was first in the first instance. It was incredibly localized, incredibly specialized, and it altered based upon the community and based upon the time.
Yeah,
and that has been the way that societies have policed. However, we now have the Great Edifice. We now have the Metropolitan Police Act, etc., etc., etc. And I think that it's now no longer what it needs to be. And in a previous model, there would have been a kind of slash and then a restart. What do we actually need, and how do we confront and produce it? But we are unwilling, unable to do that because we have this idea about legacy and identity and heritage, and that's been coupled with the documents produced and the laws enforced by Robert Peel.
This is a really complicated one because it's so easy to go off into sort of a modern day rant or views about policing. Not to get too political, but modern policing in the UK, I don't know about in other parts of the world because we hear things that we don't know, is generally not viewed here very positively for a whole plethora of reasons. And of course, it depends where you sit in society as to how you view these things, or all sorts of factors. I'm not saying that's right or whether it should be wrong. I'm not going to go down any of those paths, but certainly I wouldn't say the positive view of policing that has perhaps existed in the past exists today. I think I don't think is unfair, whether that's people feel that that's right or wrong, fair or unfair.
And whether that's because the media have been sicked on them.
Yeah, so it was very much seen as the foundation of a fantastic institution. that viewpoint, rightly or wrongly, doesn't exist. So
they are chronically underfunded and chronically understaffed.
Yeah, like all of our public services.
Yeah. I believe the statistic is that in this country, it may be even less now. There is one police officer per 700 members of the population. One police officer per 700.
God, I can't think why crime's on the rise.
So
anyway,
they are chronically understaffed, chronically underfunded. They have all too often there has been discussions about the spirit of the law, interpretations of the law, and a willingness to allow police officers to police by understanding the spirit of the law, but they don't have a law degree. They don't have, some do, but they don't have a law degree. So if you want them to do that, then you need to fund them to be educated to do that.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why that can't happen. There's no reason why policing cannot be educated in the same way with an academic basis.
That would be fabulous. Right. Well, so there we go. That's a really tricky one.
It's really hard.
As we commented on the time, we felt that he would be rolling in his grave at the comparison. There is a legacy because of we have the Met and how the Met put together and how it's changed policing, but we don't feel necessarily. I don't think that this is the legacy he was going for exactly.
No,
the premise is there, but I don't think he wouldn't structure it like this. If he was in charge, I don't think he would, he wouldn't have looked to the underfunding. He wouldn't have, I think he'd have been, I think the vision he had was very, again, like you say, the situations change, society's changed, demographics change. So to try and layer that model on doesn't work exactly like you said.
And we have to be very clear about what we mean by policing by consent without fear or favour.
I think he had a vision, and what we have is not his vision. That's not his fault.
No, but equally, I don't think his vision could work in today. So what do you put down as a score? We put down as a score.
Oh no, that's just too hard. So I'm just going to say 7 because I don't know.
6 for me. 6 for me.
If in doubt, so if you might have a multi-guess exams, if in doubt, just say C. 7. Intentions were admirable. Maybe should have put checks and balances in place to prevent. I don't know what that says.
Good.
I don't know. So I'm just going to put 7.
Shenanigans.
20, 67. 67. So wee bit lower, people.
We haven't done agency. So it's about time we just having a little look at Julesy. One thing to like the current system is that police too busy to do anything about petty crimes like burglary. Yeah, and that's something that is being discussed now. Actually, this week we round our way had to call the police because there was what gets classified as a domestic, and by domestic there was some bloke beating 7 bells out of his missus in a car. So we called the police and they turned up, and apparently her eyes out to here. They talked to them both and just drove off.
Oh, well, that will solve it. Yay!
And I have to say I can't fathom how that was the result. I cannot fathom how that was. I cannot fathom how that was the result. Genuinely.
No comment. Which is what you should always say.
As I've taught my son.
Yeah.
No comment. So let's go on to, does he have agency over his legacy? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Put a Y if you think yes, put an N if you think no. Once again, that's how letters work. It's fairly obvious. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. Is he an agent of his own legacy? Put a comment down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The end.
Well, they're still coming through a bit slow, but I've only had, 2 no's. Mostly yeses. Mostly yeses. So, right, okay. So 77 overall for Mr. Peel.
77 overall for Mr. Peel. Okay, hang on.
See, Beverly's put a good point here. There are too many people entering the police with degrees, but know nothing about investigating crime. They are entering police at a high level. That can be a danger as well. So you're better qualified, so you can go in earlier with what we said about educating people. But there's something else as well. And I know some people might find this a bit rude or patronizing, but I don't feel that it's, and I could see that. And I don't feel this is an unreasonable point, because I know everybody is different. But I think sometimes you see people going, it's not necessarily just about their level of qualification. It's about experience. If you're going to whack somebody in high up, quite young, it's not just they haven't had the experience in time in their job. They haven't had life experience.
I mean, to my understanding, that's not how
the world works. They haven't had time to work out the best way to vote. They haven't studied history, you know. So I think there's something to be said for making people start and work up.
Beverly, I don't know where you're based or what your police force is, but to my understanding, that is not. You might get fast tracked, but my understanding is that most people, particularly with the hiring issues, lots of people started off as PCSOs, which is police community support officers, or as we like to call them, baby dibble. And
is that top cat? Officer Dibble.
Yeah, well, no, so baby dibble, because they don't have full arrest powers, I don't believe. And then from there, some people would be able to apply into regular policing. And if you had certain qualifications, like or experience, like maybe you'd worked in the prison service, or perhaps you've been a part of the military, you may well get fast tracked through. But as far as I'm aware, there is a kind of, you progress up. It's not like with the military where you come in as a squaddie, or you go to Sandhurst and you're immediately an officer. Like my understanding is different, although I have never applied for the police. So let us go over. This is what I've got by way of scores. So top of our list, we have still got Edward Jenner with 94. Alfred the Great is coming in at 93. Ada Lovelace, 89. William the Marshal is at 88. Isaac Newton, 87, as is Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Capability Brown is at 84. Darwin, Nelson, and Thomas More all have 81.
Oh.
Flossie Nightingale, 78. Robert Peel, 77. Nicholas Owen, 75. Boudica, 74. Anne of Cleves, 54. And Princess Charlotte, 52.
Right, so there we go. Don't know what you all think of that. You can let us know. Now, Philippa, what's happening next week? I don't know. I'm not here. You and Kat will have to think of something before then.
Well, watch this space. Watch this space, kids.
We've got some maybes. Obviously, we can't do our next hero because Philippa isn't here.
Yes.
And we've just done round. We've got some things we're toying with. So surprise!
Eyes in the fire. Eyes in the fire.
Surprise room.
Used to say. In the meantime, if you like what you see, you can buy us Winnebagos in support. And
we haven't got the things that Philippa rolls across.
Philippa rolls the thing across. It's at buymeacoffee.com/had podcast.
Podcast.
That's also the place that you can come to. We're sort of, it won't be scrolling across the screen. I apologise. It's also where you can go if you want to become one of our close friends. That happens on Instagram. If you join our close friends, then you'll be added to see that on Instagram. And it's a place where Catherine goes to spread her filth. Generally, that's her particular manure pile.
I haven't been that hot on that recently. So if you're on close friends, I'm really sorry, but I am clearing out my cloud at the moment. So I am finding all of the things that I have saved over the last God knows how long. And when I finish clearing out my cloud, there will be a crop of unnecessariness and vague historical humour and some
rough beavers.
And rough beavers.
Yeah. Talking of which, we have got merch. You can check it out. We've got
Teespring had at Teespring.
We've got Timmy the Problem merch. We've got Rough Beaver merch. We've got Had merch. We've got No Feet for Free on the internet merch. Check it out. Peruse it. See what you think. Any more? Oh, please do make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell icon beside the subscribe button. That way YouTube and Ledgers, they will tell you when we're next going live. Make sure you like this one. Share it with your mates. Share the channel with your mates, particularly if they are also filth merchants. Then bring them into the cradle of filth, if you will.
You make history interesting. I've got one more quick one. I don't know if anybody else is in the comments here. I'm a little bit over-invested in Manda's neighbour's possible adultery. So I feel like there's a bit of a soap opera going on here in the comment section. So
I've missed that.
Oh, well, you were talking about something serious. I was like, well, I feel like we've got a little bit of a side, like a play within a play.
Oh, I love a play within a play.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing possible about it, but okay.
Manda, message me. I need the tea.
Catherine literally lives for gossip. It's her.
I need the tea.
Right. That's it from us, kids. So as per usual, the rest of the week, be good. If you can't be good, be careful. And if you can't be careful, just make sure that you don't get caught. We're going to leave you now.
Police around, so you should be fine.
Fine. And also, if they pinch you, no comment. No comment. Have you got? Am I being detained? Do you have a court order? I'd like to speak to a lawyer. The only phrases that you need.
If I give you tea, will you go away? You can't do this. I used to watch The Bill.
Don't volunteer as tribute. Right. On that note, we're going to leave in.
Flip in the comments. Sorry.
3, 2, 1. Bye.